So here is today's project. This is the little bar that was in this little window area that they had. And so basically what we're gonna have to do is put a piece of wood down, screw it down to this concrete, because this is solid block concrete. This was an addition. So this room here was an addition to the house. So it never existed. So this is actually an outside wall. So anyways, we had to put down a piece of concrete, screw it down so it's nice and tight, clean up all the edges, of course. And then when we go ahead and epoxy the bar piece, we'll glue it down to that wood so that way it's nice and solid. Obviously clean up all the edges and everything. Now, walking over here to the kitchen, you can see these are the original countertops that were there. And all these little holes, we're gonna have to cover those up with wood filler. But essentially what they did was, this was the original countertop that came with the kitchen. And what they did was they put a piece of, not drywall, but some other kind of board. It wasn't wood, I don't know what it was. It was like paper, but it was like ½ inch thick. And essentially they put that down on the top of this, and then they screwed it down with all of the screws that were there. They did that through the whole kitchen. After they did that, then they went ahead and they put the mortar down so they could put the tile on and everything like that. And then of course they built up that huge edge that was here. So these countertops were actually the wrong size, because they measured from the backsplash to the edge. They measured about 27 inches. I believe it's supposed to be around 24 inches. Or 26 or something, I don't know. It was supposed to be less. And then the same thing with the backsplash. It was actually sticking out a little bit. So the reason the wall's missing, kind of like I explained, we had to basically destroy the wall, the drywall, because they glued directly, or not glued, they used the mortar directly onto the backsplash, or onto the drywall, which basically made it impossible to take off. So this is the other side of that bar thing behind the kitchen sink, and you can see it's all brick and solid. This used to be an outside wall, like I said. We're going to take the sink out today. We're also going to clean up the edges of this. So the original, the way that they had it installed, I should say, is, imagine this piece is a tile. They went ahead and they did this. So they literally overlapped it on top of this. So this sink would have been impossible to remove, because these idiots screwed it down like a normal sink. So this is still installed, we haven't touched this, but instead of doing anything with it, maybe going right up to the edge or whatever, they just decided, hey, let's put tile right on top of it. And they sealed this sink in here permanently. So obviously the sink is freed up now. We just have to go underneath, unscrew the little brackets that hold it together, undo everything, and then we'll take this sink out completely, so that way we can prep and get this ready for the next step, which is going to be the epoxy. And then again, as you see on the wall, we don't even know what this line is. It's a water line of some sort. It comes from underneath the sink faucet. My guess is it actually runs up through there and then across the ceiling and then back down over here for the refrigerator, because there's no other way to explain that, I guess. But essentially they ran that line themselves. Again, this used to be an outside wall. I'm assuming there used to be a refrigerator somewhere on this side, and that's kind of how they had it set up originally. So anyways, gonna have to clean up all the edges, and then, like I said, put the drywall. Luckily they have all these little wooden strips here, which is normal. Typically when you have an outside wall, it's gonna be the brick and then these tiny little strips here. There's no 2x4 or anything, because the concrete is, I guess, enough to you know, work for the insulation. So there's no additional insulation on these walls. However, on this side, behind this wall, and again, I don't know what they did originally, maybe they framed it in different or whatever, but on the other side of this wall is their laundry. So this is the back of the drain, and then there's the plug over here, which is for the dryer or the washer. So I don't know. Anyways, that's all a mess. This plug was originally tripping and having issues. We're gonna go ahead and add a new outlet there. New plugs, actually all the plugs are gonna get replaced. We're not replacing the box or the wiring or anything, but this actual plug, we're gonna replace that because it's all old and ugly. Same thing with these over here. We're gonna replace those switches on there. So we'll have those original switches, or switch in the plug, and then we'll have this original plug here. This one, again, it was removed because it kept tripping. So not sure what was going on with that, but we're gonna add the plug back on there. And then surprise, surprise, the oven was right here. And essentially there was a outlet that was right here. And this was completely covered up with the backsplash. So this was not visible until we took off the wall. Once we took off the wall, I realized, hey, they had an outlet right here, and they sealed it up and, you know, put everything on there, like the little caps on it, so it was fine. But essentially it's a useless outlet. So over in this corner, they have no outlet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill a hole into here, into this beam. I'm gonna extend the wires through that beam and then put an outlet over here somewhere, so that way they have an additional outlet on this side. And then over here you can actually see as well, this is newer than this. This looks like original kind of framing. And it looks like from here forward, or to my left, this was all added on. And it's also evident by the floor. You can see there used to be some kind of wall right here. Went all the way up here, maybe like a little cabinet strip. I don't know what exactly was going on here, but originally when the house was built, it looks like they had something here, and then they went ahead and expanded the kitchen and did their renovation. So anyways, that's what that is. And then last but not least, this little island area next to the refrigerator, we were able to mostly take the tile off over here. It is a little bit rough, but I think what we can do is get some really aggressive grinding and sandpaper, and then go ahead and put down some of the drywall putty stuff, and then smooth it out, make it look flat, make it look good. So I'm not gonna have to replace anything on this side, but we'll go ahead and make that look a lot better. And then of course this gets epoxy as well. So that is your tour. And that's how everything is looking currently. And so far, even in this state, this looks so much better than it did before. I hated those countertops. I don't think anybody liked them. But happy to say that all of that is going to be fixed. Oh, one last thing. After fixing the drywall and everything, we're also going to add a little 4-inch backsplash, just like we have in our house. There's no need to go with a backsplash that goes all the way up. That was a bit excessive. Sure, we can do it, but is it required? Not really. So depending on the material costs and everything and how much epoxy we have, yes, we can go ahead and, you know, just do a backsplash that goes from the countertop all the way up, and that would look pretty good. But then there's things we have to account for, like cutting out the hole for the outlets over here and there, which is not a big deal. But I think the 4-inch lip will be fine, and then the rest of it will just be painted, you know, white to match everything. So if later on somebody wants to come in and they want to do, you know, an actual backsplash with tile or something, they'll have kind of that 4-inch lip to start from. And then typically from counter to cabinet height is about 16 inches. So they'll have about 12 inches of tile to put down. So essentially those little 12 by 12 tiles that go in the kitchen, kind of like we have in our kitchen, that will fit perfectly with that 4-inch plus that other 12 inches that is left. So anyways, that's the update. Just want to let everybody know what is going on and looking at it now, and wait until tonight to see how it looks. Alrighty, so here is the update so far. Little setback just because the work was a little bit longer and more involved than expected. But I'll start off over here on this side because this side we didn't really have to do much as far as, you know, drywall or anything. But I did go ahead and add some of this little wood filler stuff. Haven't sanded it down yet, just wanted to get it put on there. I did that to all the countertops so far. So all these little spots were basically holes from screws. I still need to get the ones behind the sink. I haven't done those. I think tomorrow we're going to remove the sink and get to work on that. But back to this area real quick. This area didn't have drywall replacement, but we sanded it down, got it nice and flat, dug a couple holes into the drywall, no big deal. We went ahead and put the putty all over it, and basically we're going to sand it tomorrow once everything dries, and it should be nice and flat. Moving on over here, as you guys can tell, we replaced all the drywall, and I'll start off over here. Yes, it looks a little bit ugly right now, a little bit wavy, no big deal. We're going to sand it tomorrow and then see where we need to reapply, if any. But this drywall was a little thinner than the original drywall that was on there, and the original drywall was actually the wrong drywall that was on there. This green one is actually mold resistant drywall. So this is the correct one for a kitchen, and this is what we're using. So it's actually a little bit thinner. It's like ½ an inch versus like, I don't know, 6/8 of an inch or whatever. But anyways, that's why these bigger areas here where it met the original wall, like there, and then up there, and over there, and over there. That's why I had to put a lot of putty on there, because I had to basically feather it out, you know, change the level essentially. So anyways, all the outlets are installed. These are the new outlets. This one is the completely brand new one. So there used to be one behind the oven that was completely closed off with drywall. No idea why that was like that, but I guess because when they remodeled this kitchen, whatever they did before, they put the oven here and then they closed it off behind that wall. So all I did was tap into that one and then relocate it over here, and then I put the box over here and I removed the other one completely. Over here, this outlet was not working before. I'm not sure what was going on with it, but now it's working. Over here, this outlet is just a brand new outlet, and then you have the other brand new outlet over here. Oh, hey there, Mr. Rochi. Mr. Rochi. Yes, we're gonna have to bomb the house later. But these outlets are brand new. Got a new light switch and a new GFCI outlet. We kept the boxes original and just obviously added that other one. Anyways, I'm tired if you guys can't tell. But all the little holes were patched up. Everything is going to be drying overnight, and tomorrow we're going to sand all the walls down. Once all the walls are completely done, ready to go, then I could start to work on the backsplash, which is going to be about a 4-inch backsplash that comes up a bit, and it's going to, you know, basically be the border for the whole countertop area. And I needed to do that before, and over here as well. I need to do that before we go ahead and epoxy or do anything to the countertops, because the backsplash is also getting epoxy, so it's going to match, the backsplash is going to match the countertops, which is going to be pretty cool to tie it all in. And then we also need to put down a piece of wood here, glue it down so that way it's nice and solid, and then we're also going to put the original piece back on there after we epoxy it. So we got to epoxy that, countertops, and the backsplash. But one of the big hiccups today, this outlet, the GFCI outlet, it was wired wrong, and the wiring before was like really funky, and there's just so many wires that are running through here. For example, that outlet and that outlet are actually connected to this refrigerator power somehow, and that outlet and this outlet, sorry, I think the switch is connected to the wall over there with the fan, and then there's like one of these outlets, I don't know which one, is connected to a wall over there. So the wiring in this house is totally messed up, but no big deal. We got this working and everything looks good. It's all tested and it's all looking good now. So that's my recap video for today. Tomorrow we should expect to see pretty much the walls all sanded down.
Everything should be flat. Anything that's not, we're gonna add a little bit more putty just to make it nice and flat and get it close to perfect as possible. And once that's done, we're gonna go ahead and primer the drywall. Oh, also there was a pretty big hole up here. It was like this big, and so we put the tape on there, and then I started filling it, but the tape started collapsing because it can only hold so much weight. So tomorrow I'm going to add in a little bit more once this is dried, and that way that'll be a nice solid closed hole. It's behind the microwave. I'm not going to spend too much time in that area. I'm not going to really make it look pretty. I'm just going to fill in the hole so it's not an actual hole. And that is the update, like I said, for today. We're going to primer the walls tomorrow after everything's sanded. I don't think we're going to paint it until after everything else is done, or maybe we'll paint it. I don't know. It's just going to be white, so we'll see. And we already have the paint. We already have the primer. And yes, Sophia, it is the primer that is for the drywall. At least that's what the guy at Home Depot said. Basically, it's the one that absorbs into that's a primer and a sealer, he was saying. And then, like I said, take apart the sink. We're going to take that out, clean it up, make everything look good, do the last minute sanding and prep work on everything here. Hopefully by tomorrow evening, we can go ahead and pour all the epoxy, and that will get that all ready to basically the last step, which is just the finishing coat. After the epoxy is dried, we'll have to do that the following day. Anyways, this video is running on and running on. Okay, quick update video. Today took a little bit longer than expected. We were both really tired, but anyways, I got basically the full backsplash ready to go. Every cut is ready, every outlet is ready to go. Perfect. Got the bar up here and the little panels that go there. So all of that, everything you see that is wood right there, including that, and the countertop is all going to get epoxy, and it's all going to be looking like marble. So this is two separate pieces, and what I'm going to do is line them up perfectly, and then I'm going to glue them together so it's one solid piece. So this piece is going to run the whole length of that, and then that way it's one solid piece. And then over here, kind of the same thing. This one is actually 9 feet, but they only sell these boards in 8 feet, so I did have to kind of make this piece extra, so that's an extra foot, and then this I'm going to glue together, so it's going to be one solid piece as well. So you're not going to see any seams on here when it's done. And then over here you have that wood, and then over here, which never had a backsplash at all. Actually, no, it had that other backsplash, but that's a little island that it's going to have there. So still working on it, but again, took a little bit longer than expected for today's progress. And then the other thing, I didn't exactly cut it short, but I didn't know where to cut it, so I cut the line here, and then this little gap was here once we put this little bar back on there. So I essentially had to cut a little piece to fit inside there to close up the gap, and then I'm going to glue that piece back onto there, and when it's all done, again, it's not going to be visible. It's going to look completely seamless. And then the same thing over here. I actually cut it too short. That was 100% my fault. Cut it 1 inch too short, so this little piece is going to get glued on the end and then epoxy, so that way it goes perfectly to the edge here and the cabinets up there. Looking from the other side, it's kind of what it's going to look like over here. Again, this is going to have that marble look. This is also going to have the marble look, and then I did have to do some modifications to this. This is the existing piece that was there. I do have to fix this corner still, which I have a few pieces of things to do it with. Also had to modify the cut right here so the backsplash fits in between nice and snug, and then when these go on, it'll be nice and tight, and everything is going to come out looking amazing, but it is a lot of work, and that's what happens when you are a perfectionist. So it's gonna look good, and whoever has this kitchen next is gonna absolutely love it until they destroy it. Good morning and welcome to day 162 of the madness. So starting off over here, this is the little bar top piece that goes above the kitchen sink. I got it all filled up with putty last night, so all the little holes are filled up. I also fixed the corner, which is over here. So I was working with what I had, so it is a little bit like not flush like this side is over here, but that's okay because I could kind of sand that down a little bit, make it a little bit more flush. But essentially I was working with what I had as far as material, and I went ahead and attached a little piece there. If you remember from the other video, this piece was missing completely, so I rounded it off to kind of match the contour. So anyway, so that's the little bar piece. I also shaved a little bit more inside here, so that way once the epoxy and everything's on it, it'll be able to fit in here a little bit more snug. So that's the bar piece. Here is the entire backsplash. So I went ahead, step number one for today was essentially getting the edges ready. So since this is particle board, the edges are a little bit rough, so I had to put some wood filler along the edges here and there. So this is all the visible parts of the backsplash. So in other words, this is going to be seen, it's going to be exposed. Same thing with this edge here, it's going to be exposed. So I wanted to make sure I got those areas nice and smooth. And then from pretty much this line on, this is going to be under the counter or under the cabinets, so it's not going to be visible. Same thing with this entire piece, which is why I did not put any putty on there. So I just applied the putty. Going to wait a little bit for it to dry, and then I'll go ahead and sand it down. Also, this was one of the seams. I went ahead and sanded it down, got all the extra liquid nail stuff off, and then I went ahead and applied some of the wood putty to fill in the seam. I'm gonna come back in after it's dried, sand it down a little bit, make it nice and smooth. You're never even gonna know that there was a seam there once everything is said and done. And then the same thing, this is actually where it meets the little bar above the kitchen. So this little area needed to be smooth along with the edges here, because these edges are gonna be exposed to that. And then this is actually the pieces that go on the island as well, as far as the backsplash to line up with this. So only two sides of these needed to be done because, again, that side and that side will be exposed. Same thing with that piece. And then onto the other piece here. So this piece right here is on that little lonely island next to the refrigerator. One side's gonna be the refrigerator. The other side's gonna be pretty much the door molding. So I'm not gonna worry too much about that side because it's gonna be very hard to see in there anyways. But the top part was gonna be exposed, so I went ahead and put some putty on that. And then again, here's the other side of the kitchen sink island bar thing. And then again, the same thing, the cabinets will basically be from like here on. So I went ahead and just kind of put a little bit just to kind of feather it through, but I'm not gonna worry too much about this edge being so rough. Over here on the other side, I didn't want to do this side just yet. I wanted to give this stuff a little bit of time, but essentially I still have to sand this seam down and then go ahead and put some putty on there so that way it can be nice and smooth. And then this is the exposed edge on the end of the kitchen countertop. This entire piece over here, it gets nothing because nothing's going to be visible on that one. So, oh, sorry, I apologize. This right here is actually going to be, was the other seam. I know it's very hard to pick up on the camera, but you could essentially see it, a little bit of it right there. I sanded this down. It feels amazingly smooth. I can't feel a seam at all. So I know once the epoxy goes on, everything's gonna seal it up and it's gonna look like one piece. So I'm not worried about that part at all for that. So anyways, that's your morning update for day number 272. And we're gonna continue on prepping and getting everything ready because the epoxy goes on today. Got to do the primer early on. That way, when I go ahead and let that cure, so we can go ahead and put the epoxy. So primer goes on first, then the epoxy gets done. Alrighty, so right now we have the primer all dry, and next is the base coat for the epoxy. So that's going to go on, and but I just wanted to kind of document this part. Yes, I could do a second coat of primer, but quite honestly, it's white, and the base coat is white, and I think there's enough primer on here to go ahead and paint now. So stuff like this should all go away once I put the paint on it, or the base coat, because it is a thicker kind of a base coat. It's not like normal paint. So, but everything feels pretty good, pretty smooth, and you can't even tell that there were holes in the countertop. Quite frankly, if all we did was just paint these countertops any color and leave it like that, it would be a huge improvement, because they look pretty good even like this. So anyways, that's the update for right now. We've reached the part of the video that I guess we've all been kind of waiting for, at least I have, where we start mixing the epoxy, getting ready to apply it to the countertops and the backsplash. So I went ahead and started prepping and getting a little bit of the area ready. Essentially, I have these two packets here that came with the kit. One is a white metallic, the other one is a black metallic. These get mixed in, and this actually adds the color to the clear coat. The instructions do tell you how much to mix in, but for the most part, a lot of the videos just kind of eyeball it. So I just kind of eyeball the amount, and then I'll just add a little bit more if I need more. I also picked up some of this color here from Michaels. This is just a Recollections Extra Fine Glitter. So I went ahead and added that because I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. So it's a light silver, but it also has some colors reflecting on it. And what I did here with the cups is I have the glitter by itself, I have the black mixed with the glitter, the white mixed with the glitter, and then I have the black by itself and the white by itself. And then in this bucket, we're gonna go ahead and mix the epoxy itself. On the videos, it said to mix part B first, or put in part B and then add part A. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. And supposedly the product is very, very forgiving as far as time. So there's no huge rush on this, and I'm gonna try to remember that, because I always feel like I'm rushing when I'm trying to do stuff like this, like I'm on a time clock, but they do make it to where it's pretty flexible as far as time. So in goes part B. And once this one's in, I'm gonna mix in part A. This is a 10 quart or 2-gallon bucket that I picked up from Home Depot. Sure, I could mix it in anything, but I figured I'd at least have a nice bucket to work with here. And we bought the gallon kit, and the reason for that is because we originally thought, okay, we're just gonna need about a gallon to cover the amount of space. As a backup, we purchased the half-gallon kit, and I think it's a good thing we did, because we kind of shifted plans a little bit and decided to do the backsplash, whereas originally we were just going to do like a little 4-inch backsplash. Now we're doing a full backsplash, which is going to cover the entire wall. So because of that, I don't know if the 1-gallon kit is going to cover the countertops completely and the backsplash. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix all of it now, and that way we have enough material to work with. And since I'm going to be doing kind of a dirty pour on this project, I guess that's what they call it, at least in the videos that I've seen. Essentially, that just means that I'm not going to be going back in and like fine tuning anything. I'm just going to kind of pour it, and where it lands, I might mix it up just a smidge just to kind of create some kind of effect if I wanted to change it up a little. But for the most part, I'm going to be just kind of pouring it on the countertops and the backsplash, and I'm not going to be coming in afterwards to do anything. All right, I got part B already in there. I'm gonna mix part A. And they do say that this is a very thick mixture, and it absolutely is. And I'm working this in the garage. I have the garage door open, mostly for light, but also for any smells or fumes, which for the most part they say on the videos that there's no toxic fumes or anything coming from these, and I don't really smell anything at all, so that's good to know. And once I get this mixed in, again, I feel like I should be rushing, but all the videos say there's plenty of time to work with. Alrighty. Let me go ahead and get the other half gallon situated here. One of the advantages to this kit, and they mentioned it on the videos, is that the epoxy is actually thicker than some other epoxies, which allows for essentially mixing and pouring on thick without it running off completely like it would with some other epoxies. And I picked up this paint mixer and attached it to the drill. It says to mix for about 2 minutes. So now we got this mixed for about the 2 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and start pouring some of this epoxy into the different colors that we have here and see how that looks, see how it turns out, and see if we need to make any adjustments. Now I know they do this on the videos and they're pretty liberal with everything as far as, you know, pouring it and being not so clean, but I am going to attempt to not pour so crazy. And then again, I have little mixing sticks here for each individual one. Actually, I gotta find one more stick, but I'm gonna go ahead and mix those after I mix them with the epoxy itself. So look at that, it's a nice pearl white, or metallic as they called it on the container. This one I used mostly just black. And when they say a little bit goes a long way, it absolutely does, because I did not think it was actually going to change the colors like this, but it does. Yeah, I took it from clear to these different colors. Yeah, that one's just black, this one's just white. This is white with glitter, black with glitter, and glitter by itself. everybody. It has been about 4 hours, and just wanted to quickly walk through. Had to sort of improvise a little on some of this because the instructions say mix it 1-to-1 for the part A and the part B. And unfortunately, that's exactly what I did. Part A, part B, perfectly mixed. You could see it in the earlier clip. But for some reason, the epoxy started getting hard really fast. It's actually coming out really dark on camera. It's not as dark, probably because there's also shadow there. I guess, yeah, that makes sense because it's a little bit brighter right there. This part is really my favorite kind of area of this whole little project. The white in here is really nice. It's like a nice creamy pearl white, and it's got some shimmer to it. But anyways, back to what I was saying. The epoxy started hardening way faster than expected, unfortunately. So with that, we had to kind of quickly work it and finish it. And I think we did a pretty good job at working with what we had. Can't wait to see the results when we get the backsplash on and everything together again. So far, this is looking great. I think, again, for what we ended up having to do with it all, backsplash and everything's in the garage. I'm not going to go out there. Once we get everything on, I'll make another video, probably before that actually. But yeah, so anyways, this is just some stuff. My dad ended up having to put these little black lines in there, mostly to kind of blend in the edges because the epoxy was curing so fast that we didn't have enough epoxy running over the edges in order to have it fill in. This area was actually the only area that the epoxy was overflowing and running. And this was actually the first area I poured, so that makes sense. It was the first area I kind of messed with, so again, that makes sense, that there was epoxy running over the edges. But even so, the instructions were saying to pull off the tape on the edges to let it run over the edge at about the 3 to 4 hour mark, and we peeled it off pretty much right away. And we're currently at the 4 hour mark, and had we waited that actual time, it would have been a disaster. This would not have been even close. The whole edges would have been completely white still. And unfortunately, we used up all the epoxy that we had because the backsplash ended up making us use up more of the product. So because of that, we ended up, like I said, pretty much using up everything we had, and we would have had nothing to be able to do these edges. So glad we did that. Tomorrow I have to sand down the sink and clean it, get it all spiffy. It is a stainless steel sink, but since the prior owners or whoever did it installed the tile on top of the sink, so this original countertop was here, the sink was there, and then they put tile on top of it, which actually left some grout and some other things, some glues, some silicones, whatever it is, on top of it, along with just being a nasty overall looking sink. And since that was a mess, I'm gonna have to clean it, of course. So let me see if I can pick up some of that shimmer. This glitter did not come with the kit. This is one that I added. I really like that addition. You can see some areas that don't have it, and then you see some areas that do. So it's kind of sparse in there. It's not all over everything, which I really like that effect. It's actually in some of the lighter areas, which is kind of cool. So, but anyways, really just the sink tomorrow and the instructions, because we got the matte finish. This is a gloss right now because it's pretty much just poured. But once we let this cure to tomorrow, we'll go ahead and sand it down. You won't see these reflections anymore. It'll be nice and flat, and then we'll go ahead and put down the top coat, which is going to make it have a matte finish to it. So stay tuned for that part. overall, here is the outcome. We're pretty happy with it, to be honest. Not exactly how we would have loved for it to come out. It is darker than I expected, but that's again on my part for putting a little bit too much black in it. But some other things to take away from this is we're really not happy with some of the sides and the way it kind of dripped or lack of dripping. And again, I think that's just because the product cured way faster than expected. Didn't allow me to do anything with it as far as creative design. I even tried to add some of the denatured alcohol, which would have given it some kind of blotchy effects. And by the time I was already putting the denatured alcohol on, it was already cured to the point where it had zero effect on it. So what you get here is just a pure rush job, essentially. We had to work as fast as possible once we realized that the product was curing, but I think it looks fine overall. We also did not add the matte finish to it because I figured it looks fine the way it is, and I'd rather not just go through another part of the process here. And here's your finished product. Hope you guys liked. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this content. I just post a bunch of random stuff, so thank you for watching again. Take care.